With 2022 very quickly approaching at this point, BMX companies and bike shops are starting to see 2022 complete BMX bikes show up at their doorstep, including Sunday bikes. And with that, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to give overviews on every single complete bike in Sunday's 2022 complete bike lineup. And we're going to do this in the order that they're on their website. As you can see here, we've got Julian Ortega greeting us on their site, 2022 complete bikes. And real quick, I did do this with Kink's 2022 completes, so if you missed that one and want to check it out, it is over on my YouTube channel. But let's get into Sunday's 2022 complete BMX bikes. We're going to start with the first one they have here, which is the Dark Wave Authentic. This bike is 100% aftermarket parts and exactly what Brock rides, all the way down to his signature Odyssey product, left-hand drive setup, and top tube size. So you're only getting this in left-hand drive, but this is exactly the bike that Brock Rayford rides. So let's take a closer look and see what you'll get if you pick up this bike. So scroll down to the parts list and specifications. Obviously, this is coming with the Sunday Dark Wave frame. It comes in the size he rides in 21¼ top tube length. This is a 100% chromoly frame with a waved down tube on it. The fork is the Sunday Dark Wave fork. This is also 100% chromoly, and it has a 28mm offset. The handlebars are Odyssey Brock bars, 41 thermal, and they are an aftermarket bar. The stem is the Odyssey Brock stem. It's the V2 version, and it has a 50mm reach. The headset is the Odyssey Pro Conical with a Sunday aftermarket headset cap on it that is aluminum. The brake lever, this does come with brakes in case you want to put them on there, and the weight down here at the bottom is a brakeless weight. But the brake lever is the Odyssey Springfield, with the brakes being Odyssey Springfield brakes, and the lever being the Odyssey Linear Quick Slick cable. The grips are Odyssey Brock Rayford signature grips. Same with the seat. It is a pivotal. It also has an alternate seat on here, which is the Odyssey Big Stitch. Because of the BMX industry and supply chains and all that craziness right now, I believe these are probably just two options that you may end up with if you buy this bike. Seat post is Odyssey Pivotal seat post. Seat clamp is integrated into the frame. Sprocket is the Odyssey LaGuardia sprocket in 28 tooth. Cranks, Thunderbolt from Odyssey, 170mm. These are 100% chromoly and go through the 41 thermal process, and obviously, like we said before, left-hand drive. Bottom bracket parts, Odyssey sealed mid and 22mm. Pedals are Odyssey Twisted Pro PC pedals. The rims are Odyssey Hazard Light 20-inch 36-hole. Front hub is the Odyssey Vandero Pro 36-hole sealed 3/8 female axle with 2 plastic guards. The rear hub is the Odyssey Clutch V2 Free Coaster 36 holes, 14mm female axle with a 9-tooth left-hand driver. Non-drive side plastic guard is included. Spokes are 14G steel black. The tires are Odyssey Brock tires in 2.4 front and rear, and the chain is the Odyssey Bluebird half-length chain. The approximate weight of this brakeless comes in at just under 25 pounds. Frame geometry, 21¼ top tube. The head tube angle is 75.25 degrees. Seat tube angle, 71 degrees. Chainstay length is 13.25 through 13.5 inches. Bottom bracket height, 11.75 inches. The standover is 9.25 inches. The handlebar geometry, which it didn't list before, is the rise, 9.8 inches. Width, 29. Back sweep is 10 degrees, and up sweep is 2 degrees. So that is the bike. How much does it cost? $1,350. You're going to notice here that the Sunday bikes are raised in their prices. It's coming, guys. BMX industry is going to be raising its prices. Supply chain shortages, increases in material prices, increases in shipping prices, and a lot of other factors that are just not under the control of those within BMX are causing these prices to go up. And quite frankly, this is something that has been a long time coming. So hopefully this isn't too much of a sticker shock for you, but this is what it's going to be moving forward more than likely. Moving on from here, let's scroll down a little bit to the Soundwave special. So this is Gary Young's signature bike from Sunday. It's interesting to see that they're continuing to offer the Soundwave Gary Young special under his name, considering the fact that he's about to have his own frame with Sunday. But let's take a look at what these bikes have to offer. This is the Free Coaster special. It is available in both Free Coaster and cassette options, with the only difference being the back hub. So let's take a closer look here. Same price as the Brock Rayford bike. But what do we get as far as parts go? It's the Sunday Soundwave V3 with a 21-inch top tube. This is, of course, a 100% chromoly aftermarket frame. This one does go through the 41 thermal process, so this frame does have a lifetime warranty on it, and it has the removable brake hardware. The fork is the Sunday Darkwave. Of course, we already said it's 100% chromoly. It does have that 28mm offset. It is also 41 thermal lifetime warranty part. Handlebar is the Odyssey Superhighway bar, which is 100% chromoly aftermarket and is two-piece. Stem, Sunday Freeze, 48mm reach on that. The headset is the FSA integrated conical. The alloy cap is a Sunday aftermarket cap. Brake lever, Odyssey mono lever, but it comes with the Springfield U-brakes, and it also has the Odyssey Quick Slick cable. Grips are Odyssey Warnin grips. Those are Gary Young's signature grips. The seat is the Odyssey Slugger Stitch Pivotal, with the seat post being an Odyssey Pivotal seat post. Seat clamp is Sunday aftermarket clamp. Sprocket is the Odyssey Utility Pro 25 tooth with a plastic guard. Cranks are once again the Odyssey Thunderbolt cranks. They're 170mm again. Once again, 41 thermal lifetime warranty part. Bottom bracket parts are sealed mid 22mm bottom bracket, with the pedals being the Odyssey Twisted PC Pros. Rims are both hazard lights. Front hub is the Vandero Pro, just like on the Darkwave. The rear hub is the Odyssey Clutch Free Coaster, just like on the Darkwave as well. Spokes 14G steel black. Tires Odyssey Path Pros, front and rear 2.4 size. The chain is a KMC Z1 EHX-W, and this bike comes in at a brakeless weight of 23.41 pounds. That is crazy light. And here is the frame geometry if you want to check that one out. Handlebar geometry is right here as well. It is a bit different on both the frame and the handlebar. So this bike is a little bit different than the Darkwave bike. So if you're looking for something with a bit different geometry and you want a complete bike that is 100% aftermarket parts, this is going to be where you want to go. And when you add up the total of all of these parts separately on both this bike and the other, you are getting a deal and you are saving quite a bit of money to buy this over building all of it yourself. You may not be as free in the options for what you get, but you're getting something that is 100% aftermarket and legit. So what's the difference on the cassette version? What cassette do we get? Rear hub, Odyssey Antigram V2 cassette. And that hub actually increases the price by $20 on this bike. So if you want a cassette, you're going to be paying $20 more for this bike. It's a sharp looking bike. It's very similar to the bike that I ride, so I am a fan here. And it's in that cream colorway, whereas the Darkwave Authentic is in that matte trans red colorway. So moving on from there, we go down in price quite a bit, and we go to the Street Sweeper Complete bike. This is built around Jake Seeley's all-new chromoly aftermarket signature frame. So we'll get into the dimensions and details for that right now. Let's take a closer look at this one. And we aren't going to completely read through every single part on the parts list for every single bike, but these ones do make sense because they're the highest end bikes that Sunday has to offer, and these are things that you're going to care about when you're spending this much money and not cutting corners to buy the best thing that you can. So this is built around Jake Seeley's frame, and what do we get here? A 20.75 top tube, 100% chromoly aftermarket frame with the removable hardware. The fork on this one is the Sunday Pro 20-inch fork. This is a 100% chromoly fork, and it is a 25mm offset. The handlebars are Sunday 100% chromoly handlebars that are 4-piece. Stem, Sunday Freeze, 48mm reach. FSA headset, Sunday alloy cap. Brake lever, Odyssey Springfield with the Springfield brakes and the quick slick cable. The grips are Jake Seeley's signature Sunday grips, with the seat being the Sunday Creepy Sweeper seat. Seat alternative is the Sunday Duck Canvas black seat, with the post being a Sunday Pivotal and seat clamp being integrated into the frame. Sprocket is the Sunday Sabertooth V2 25 tooth 6 series aluminum sprocket, with the cranks being 160mm 3-piece chromoly cranks. So that's the first savings here. They're not Thunderbolts. Bottom bracket parts sealed mid 19mm bottom bracket, so they are 19mm spindle cranks. Odyssey Twisted PC Pros, with Odyssey quadrant rims. These are a pinned seam rim, meaning that they're not welded at the seam of the rim and they have pins in them, which is a way to save costs in the process of making these. That's the next place where we're seeing that cost savings. Front hub is a Sunday 36-hole sealed 3/8 female hub, with the rear hub being the Odyssey Clutch V2 free coaster. Once again, sealed female axle. The spokes, 14G steel black. Tires are Sunday Street Sweeper tires in 2.4 front and rear, and that's the V2 of them. The chain is the KMC Z1 wide chain, and this one also comes in just under 25 pounds in the brakeless option. Frame geometry is here. This is more of a techie, street-orientated, new school frame. 20.75 top tube, as we said, 75.25 degree head tube with a 71 degree seat tube angle. Chainstay length is much shorter here at 12.7 to 13 inches. Bottom bracket height is 11.7 inches. Head tube length, 4.7, and standover is 8.85 inches. Handlebar geometry, 9-inch rise. 29-inch wide handlebars with a back sweep of 12 degrees and up sweep of 3 degrees. So taking a look at that compared to something like the Soundwave Special, the differences in what you're getting mainly lie in the cranks being non-aftermarket Thunderbolt cranks. You're getting, what is it? I think you're getting a fork that is not aftermarket, so that is actually the first cost-saving measure there. When it comes to the front hub, you're not getting an aftermarket front hub, but you're still getting a sealed one. So you're still getting frame, fork, and handlebars at 100% chromoly, so they're probably of similar quality, but they're not the 41 thermal, so they don't have the lifetime warranty on them. I mean, we're talking about a cost difference here. This bike is $870 versus $1,200 or $1,350 on the Soundwave. So that means that you're saving $500 between there. And you've got to ask yourself, are the geometric differences in price and quality differences enough to make up for that price difference? That is a big price gap to make up for when you're jumping from the Street Sweeper Complete to the Darkwave Authentic or the Soundwave Special. So this is an interesting comparison to make, and all in all, in my personal opinion, when you take a look at the things that are cost-saving measures here, I personally believe that even if you replaced those parts once they go bad, after who knows how long it takes you to actually go through them, you're still going to be up money if you bought this bike. If you want the lifetime warranty and that's worth it for you, then of course you're going to go with one of those two other higher end completes. But I would say for a lot of people, this could be a real sweet spot. And then if you have that extra budget, you could put that extra budget into buying different parts that you might want and end up less than the price if you didn't want to replace all of the different pieces that add up to that $1,350. Sell your old parts, make a little bit of money back, and there you go. You've got a complete aftermarket bike for maybe less money. That's not to say that the quality is a crazy difference either here. I fully believe that anything that's 100% chromoly is going to be of high quality. It's not 41 thermal, so you can't put that same safety stock that you can in, say, like the Soundwave or the forks that they have on there or the Thunderbolt cranks. All in all, though, this is a solid bike at what feels like a really decent price point in comparison. I mean, when you take a look at the Kink Williams bike that we talked about in the previous video, that bike was around $900 and had very similar specs and parts on it. And I did find out later that the frame on that one is actually not the exact Nathan Williams aftermarket frame from Kink. It is a different one, but has very similar geometry. So that's something to take into consideration there as well. So let's keep going here. Past the Street Sweeper, we get to the EX Complete. This, I believe, yes, this is the first complete bike that has a 100% chromoly frame, fork, and handlebars. And there's two different options here in the Julian Ortega and the Eric Elstrand signatures. Both of these have different top tube lengths and they're different prices with different colors on them too. So let's take a look at the Julian Ortega first. I'm going to scroll down and take a quick look at the specs. So it's a 21-inch top tube frame with 100% chromoly frame, waved down tube on there. The Sunday EX fork, which are 100% chromoly, as we've said, and they have a 25mm offset. Handlebar, Sunday 100% chromoly, two-piece, Sunday freeze, front load stem, 48mm reach on that one. Let's take a look. Same brakes, Brock Rayford grips, badge seat, Sunday pivotal, Sunday seat clamp, Sabertooth V2 25-2 sprocket, Sunday Saker cranks, 165mm, sealed mid, 19mm bottom bracket, Twisted PC Pro pedals, Sunday Lightning rims. So that is the first place to take a look at seriously when you're looking at where the cost savings is coming from. It is a sealed front hub. Very good to hear that. Sealed C5 cassette, I believe. Odyssey C5 cassette hub. It doesn't say that it's sealed, so let's take a look and see if that's a sealed bike. So when we take a look at the C5 cassette hub on Odyssey's website, we'll see that it is a sealed hub with sealed bearings, and it does still have the same driver on it with the switchable drive on it. It means you can make it left or right hand drive, so that is a good hub. It's got Path Pro tires, 2.4 front and rear, KMC Z1 wide chain, and it comes in just under 26 pounds with the brakes. So I would imagine it'd be just under that 25 pounds without them. So now let's pull up the Eric Elstrand Complete and see how they compare. Obviously the colors are different. This has got that matte mustard versus the copper drip splatter that we see here on the Elstrand. Let's scroll down to the parts. 20.75 top tube frame, so it is a shorter top tube. It's got the same offset forks, probably same bars, stem, brakes, grips are Jake Seeley grips. Same sprocket, same cranks with the same length, Sunday Lightning rims, same front hub, but it has the clutch free coaster on it instead of the cassette. So there's where you're seeing a difference. Path Pro tires. So the only real difference here between these two bikes is that one has a cassette on it and one has a coaster on it, and the geometric differences of the top tube lengths on them. Let's double check the handlebar geometry. 28.5. So the handlebars are actually wider on the Eric Elstrand, being 29 versus 28.5 on the Julian Ortega. The Julian Ortega have a 12-degree back sweep with a 4-degree up sweep. The 12-degree back sweep is the same on the Eric Elstrand bars, or bars that are on the Eric Elstrand bike, with an up sweep of 3 degrees versus that 4 degrees on the Julian Ortega bike. So there are some differences there, and you can see the price difference more than likely comes from the cassette and free coaster. The Eric Elstrand one is actually $30 more than the Julian Ortega. So if that difference in free coaster and cassette and difference in top tube length or handlebar geometry differences mean something to you, those are what you're going to want to take a look at. And these are the bottom line for what I would recommend for a complete BMX bike. I personally do not recommend anything that is not full chromoly frame, fork, and handlebars. I would love to see a double wall rim setup on these, but unfortunately we get these Sunday Lightning rims, which are single wall, so you may end up having to replace those sooner than on some other options, and it may be worth taking a look at bumping up to the Street Sweeper for $200 more on these bikes for the double wall rims that do come on them. So moving back here, we get to the Forecaster Completes, and there are 5 different ones. We've got the Aaron Ross signature, the Maca Perez Grasset signature. This is Lady Shredder on Sunday's team. This is her signature bike. Then we've got the Brett Silva signature, the Alex Seaman signature, and the Brock Rayford signature. So Brock's got 2 different signature complete bikes with Sunday. That is pretty freaking rad. And if you take a look at the fine print here, you'll see that some of these have different top tube lengths. Aaron Ross is 20.5, Maca Perez is 20.5, but the Brett Silva is 20.75, with the Alex Seaman being also 20.75 and the Brock Rayford being 21. So you might want to take a look at these different top tube lengths and the different parts that they have on them when you're making your decisions, because that's presumably why they're doing these differences, so that people have different options to choose from. So let's first take a look at the Aaron Ross signature. I'm going to open them all up here so we can just click back and forth. Aaron Ross's obviously has this cool colorway. Aaron always does colorways that are poppy and look great. So let's scroll down to the features here. So this has a 100% chromoly frame. That is awesome. I love to see that on here because that is one of the biggest things that I recommend whenever people ask me about bikes. You need the chromoly parts if you're going to be doing anything serious long term. Just riding in a driveway, going in circles, or going off a couple curbs, you may not need it, but it's always safer to have that higher end option. So that's the Sunday Forecaster 20.5 top tube, 100% chromoly. It's got removable brake hardware. The fork Sunday Forecaster is a 2-piece chromoly steer tube and welded preload. So there's a difference there in that it's not all chromoly. The handlebars are Sunday 2-piece bars, not chromoly there. Sunday Freeze front load stem, FSA headset, Sunday cap, Springfield brakes, just like all the other bikes. This one is a quick slick non-linear. The grips, Odyssey Keyboard V2, those are Aaron Ross's signature grips. Seat, Aaron Ross's signature tie-dye pivotal, or the alternative Odyssey Flora seat. And we've got the Sunday pivotal seat post, the Sunday clamp, it's the Sabertooth V2 25-2 sprocket, just like the previous bikes we talked about. 160 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks. So that is a plus for this. It's a sealed mid 19 millimeter bottom bracket, Twisted PC Pro pedals, Sunday Lightning rims show up here again, with the front hub being a sealed front hub. That is awesome to see. And this one actually comes with the Clutch V2 free coaster on it as well. That's going to be a sealed aftermarket free coaster hub. That is awesome to see because that hub is like $200. It's a pretty big chunk of the whole price here. Path Pro OEM tires, meaning they're probably lower air pressure tires. 2.4 front and rear, KMC Z1 wide chain, coming in at just under 27 pounds with brakes on it. So the frame geometry, we're going to compare and see if there's differences in frame geometry as well. The handlebar geometry, 9-inch rise, 28.5-inch width, 12-degree back sweep, 4-degree up sweep. So when we take a look at this, let's continue on and then we'll come back and talk about my thoughts on the different parts that are included on here and the quality and what you're getting for the money. So now we've got the Maca Perez complete bike. This is gloss cyan rain, cool colorway there, and you can see it has the gyro on it. This is probably going to be the brake bike for the brake people who want it. $640 price tag. I believe all of these have the exact same price tag on them. $640. Yeah, they all have the same $640 price tag, so that is not going to be a difference here. Moving on, Sunday Forecaster 20.5, as we said, 100% chromoly frame, removable brake hardware, Forecaster 20-inch forks, same forks, same handlebars, same stem, same headset, same everything until we get to the brakes, because this one has the Odyssey M2 trigger brake lever on it instead of the Springfield. So that is an aftermarket brake lever. Still got the Springfield U-brake on it, but I haven't said it yet, but the Springfield U-brake is actually like a pretty good brake for what you're getting. You don't have to worry about adjusting spring tension. It's just one spring in the middle. You don't have to worry about a lot of the things you do with aftermarket brakes, and they work pretty good. I felt them before. They've got a nice pull to them, and if anything goes wrong, you just replace that spring on there, and it's pretty convenient. The brake cables are the Odyssey M2 upper and 2x single lower, so that is a dual lower gyro cable. That's pretty awesome on a complete bike. So it's got the Odyssey Gyro G3 with Sunday Cornerstone grips, Odyssey badge seat, Sunday pivotal seat, seat clamp, Sunday Sabertooth sprocket, 25-2 just like the others, 160 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks, same bottom bracket, same pedals, same rims, same front hub. The rear hub though is a Sunday 36-hole sealed 14 millimeter axle with 9-tooth driver. It doesn't say that it's a cassette, but I'm assuming that it's a cassette. Otherwise it would say different, but it's a sealed hub. That's awesome to see. Same spokes, same tires, same chain, same weight with the brakes on it. So now let's take a look at the geometry of this frame and see if it's exactly the same, which it is not. So the geometry on this one versus the Aaron Ross one, 75.5 degree head tube angle, same there, same seat tube angle, The chainstay length is actually different on this one. This is the Forecaster Park, if I didn't say that yet. 12.7 to 13 inch rear end or chainstay length on this one. That is much shorter than the 13.2 to 13.5 chainstay length on the Aaron Ross. It also has a higher bottom bracket height in 11.625 inches versus 11.7 on the Aaron Ross. Standover on the Aaron Ross is 9 inches versus 7.5 inches on the Macro Perez Forecaster Park. Handlebars are exactly the same. So this is definitely more park oriented, and if you're looking for a park oriented frame with brakes on it or bike with brakes on it, this may be an option to consider if you can't bump up to one of the higher options and afford to get a gyro and all of the cables and everything you need for that setup with it. I don't love that it's not chromoly fork and handlebars, but for this price and going up to the next price and buying all of the brake stuff separately, it might be worth buying this bike and then replacing the non-chromoly parts after a little while riding it, because you can certainly get away with it for a period of time. It's just not an extended period of time, as I've always said. So moving on to the Brett Silva signature, let's see what the differences are here. This one has a 20.75 top tube with 100% chromoly frame, just like all the others. Same fork, same bars, same stem, headset, same cap. Brakes are Springfield, just like the Aaron Ross. Brock Rayford grips, same seat, same post, clamp, same sprocket. The cranks here are a difference. 170 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks. So if you're looking for a longer frame with a little bit longer cranks, this may be where you want to go. And this is why these lineups are so big these days, because there's so many different types of riding and different types of people riding that you almost need these for people to kind of hone in before they buy something that is like way wrong for them, because there's not very many options available. And then they have to buy all these extra parts to make that fit them, when nowadays you can kind of just look at what you think you're going to be doing, or if you're already riding, you look at what you're doing, and then you can get the bike that matches up to it, which is really awesome. So same bottom bracket, same pedals, rims. This one I'm assuming also is the cassette because it doesn't say otherwise. Same spokes, Path Pro tires, 2.4 OEM, same chain, same weight with the brakes. So now let's take a look at the geometry compared to the Aaron Ross. Looks like it is exactly the same except for that longer top tube. Handlebar geometry, exactly the same. So there you go. Color difference, top tube difference, and crank difference. Moving on to the Alex Seaman. This one comes with that green frame with the tan seat on there. Let's go down and see what we've got as far as parts go. This one also has a 20.75 top tube frame, so there might be something to look into. Same fork. I'm only going to point out the differences here, and not differences like grips and the other like superficial, like subjective things. These are only objective differences that I'm going to be talking about. These also have the longer 170 millimeter cranks on them, and this one actually comes with a free coaster. So it looks like this is the exact same bike as the Brett Silva, but with a free coaster. And it's got the Clutch V2 free coaster on it. Like, that is a great value hub for a bike like this. Now let's take a look at the handlebar geometry differences, because that's another thing that you may consider, because these are different. So the Brett Silva has a 9-inch rise, 28.5 width, 12-degree back sweep, upsweep of 4 degrees, where the Alex Seaman has all the same except for the width is a 1/2 inch wider at 29 inches, and the upsweep is a degree steeper, I believe, or no, a degree less steep at 3 degrees. So where that compares to the Aaron Ross is that it is the exact same differences, because the Brett Silva and Aaron Ross have the same handlebar geometry. The frame geometry, exactly the same here as well. So the differences are the free coaster and the difference in handlebar geometry between the Brett Silva and the Alex Seaman. When you're looking at the Aaron Ross, it's that same top tube length difference and crank difference, and this one also has the free coaster that the Aaron Ross has. So those are where your differences and decisions will have to be made, in that, do you need a longer frame? Do you need longer cranks? Do you need the free coaster? Do you need the different handlebar width and upsweep difference? Now we're to the Brock Rayford. This one has the frame color on it, which is a fade colorway. You may like that. Let's move on here to see the differences. So this one has a 21-inch top tube, which is different than all of them. It also has, it says front load stem, but this is definitely a top load in the picture. Have all of these been, okay, so I think there's a typo because I've read front load for all of these freeze stems and none of them have been in the pictures. They're top loads, not front loads. Sunday, if you're watching this or anybody at Sunday, hey guys, you got a little bit of a typo here in the stem category, or the pictures show the wrong stem. Could be that too. So same stem, same everything, brakes, Brock Rayford grips, Brock Rayford signature seat. Obviously the alternative seat is the Big Stitch Odyssey seat. Same sprocket, 170 millimeter 3-piece cranks, so it's the same as the Brett Silva and Alex Seaman. Twisted pedals, same rims, same front hub. It's got the Clutch V2 free coaster on it. Same spokes, same tires, same chain, same weight. The frame geometry is exactly the same except for the 21-inch top tube length. Yes, everything is the same there. And the handlebar geometry is exactly the same as the Brett Silva and Aaron Ross at 9 inches of rise, 28.5-inch width with a back sweep of 12 degrees and an up sweep of 4 degrees. And if you want to know what those things mean and you're following along with this, like what? I have a video on BMX handlebar geometry. I have a video on BMX frame geometry. Same with forks and everything else. Stem, everything you might want to learn about here, I have video about it. So here is the differences in that. The top tube, the cranks, and the handlebars are the same as two of the previous bikes. So that's where you're going to have to make your decision making. If you want a 21-inch complete frame and you have to go with a Forecaster within your budget, this is the one you're going to go with. And that is the beauty of having so many bikes, as I've already said. So they're all very similar, but they do have their differences that are suited for different people. And I also just noticed that this is the only Forecaster that gives you the option of having it in left-hand drive at the same time. So if you need left-hand drive, this could be the one that you take a look at. And there's all those variables that I've covered that should help you if you know what you need in picking one of these bikes. So let's go back and talk about the quality and the parts and all of these things. So I love that this is a 100% chromoly frame. That is awesome. And the frame is the cornerstone of your build, is the most important part of your build because that's where everything ends up going on to. I don't love that the fork and handlebar aren't chromoly, but like I keep saying, you can get away with it for a little while, and that difference in price, maybe it's worth it to upgrade those things a little while after you buy this bike if you plan to. But what I would say is if you're planning on jumping off of roofs for a year, or you're trying to buy this and you need something that's going to last you forever, not forever, but a long time like the aftermarket bikes would, maybe it's worth saving that extra $230, $230 actually, to buy the Street Sweeper Complete with more aftermarket parts on it. Because the difference between the Street Sweeper Complete and all of these Forecasters is that it has 100% chromoly forks and handlebars, as well as the fact that it's got those double wall rims in the Odyssey quadrant rims on there as well. So those differences could be worth it. And if you can afford to wait a little bit and save a little bit more money, and you're okay with the geometry of the Street Sweeper, that is the route I would recommend taking. But if you can't afford it and all you can afford is a Forecaster right now, you can go for it with safety in mind, because it is obvious that these bikes are going to do okay for a while. Just bear in mind and know that you're going to have to replace some of these parts eventually. You're just going to have to, and no matter what bike you're going to buy, you're going to have to replace parts on it eventually. But the higher quality bike you buy and the more money that you spend, the longer you put off having to replace certain parts on there. These single wall rims are going to be fine for a while, and if you keep them trued up and you keep them tight, they'll probably be okay for a decent amount of time, but they're not going to last as long as the double wall rims on the upper models of these bikes. So let's move on now and talk about the next models. We have got the Scout. The Scouts are great bikes for dedicated riders on a budget. These bikes are built with more aftermarket parts than ever before. So let's take a look at them. Once again, if you take a look at the differences in here in the fine print, you'll see that these bikes do have different top tube options. And let's take a look at what that means. So let's go down to the parts. Obviously, you're going to get going down here, so there's not going to be the 100% chromoly that you have at the upper levels. This one has a chromoly down tube and dropouts on it. The frame is a 20.75 Sunday Scout frame. The forks are the Scout forks with a two-piece chromoly steer tube and a welded preload, similarly to the Forecaster. Sunday two-piece handlebars, probably similar to the Forecaster. Stem, I'm assuming Sunday freeze top load. They got the top load part right there. Same headset and cap and brakes. Grip option is the Odyssey Brock Rayford. Pivotal Sunday seat post. Clamp is a Sunday clamp. Sabertooth 25-2 sprocket, same as these other bikes. Cranks, 170mm three-piece chromoly cranks. So that is good to see. It doesn't say whether or not they're pinch bolt, but the fact that they're chromoly is good. Same bottom bracket, same pedals. The rims are P7X aluminum 20-inch, 20-hole rims. That is really interesting. Front hub is a sealed front hub. Rear hub is sealed as well. That is awesome to see, because these unsealed hubs, just things fall out of them. They get loose. They're finicky. They're not fun to mess around with. And the fact that they have that option here is great. Same spokes, same tires, same chain. Weight is actually pretty close to the same as well. So what are we getting lower on these bikes than we are on the Forecaster? We're obviously not getting the 100% chromoly frame. Forks and handlebars are similar. Stem, all of this stuff is, for the most part, pretty similar. The differences I see are in the rims and the frame. Everything else is pretty much the same, honestly. And we see that in a $100 price difference. So the rims and the frame are saving you $100. And at this point, I don't know, because I don't recommend anything under than 100% chromoly. You've heard what I said about the Forecaster. I would say for a kid who's just going to be riding around town, not necessarily trying to get big air, or this is a 12-year-old's first ever BMX bike, this might be something that is just fine for them. But if you're 20 years old, you've been riding for a little bit, and you need a new bike, you buy this bike and you full send it all the time, this bike is not going to last you as long as spending $100 more on a Forecaster would. It's just, you get what you pay for in BMX. It's that simple. That's not to say that this isn't a good bike, because all complete bikes are pretty decent these days, and there are good options available for everyone. So let's move on to talking about the Scout. I guess they're all just called the Scout, but this one has a 21-inch top tube. It looks like this one has a two-piece handlebar, whereas this one right here has a four-piece handlebar, so that's going to be a difference. Same frame, just with a 21-inch top tube versus that 20.75. Same forks, bars, except this one says two-piece, but the picture shows four-piece. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I would assume that the picture is what you're actually going to be getting with this one. Moving down, everything other than the grips are about the same. Actually, yeah, the pedals are the same, sprockets same, cranks same and same length, rims are the same, front and rear hub exactly the same. Everything is the same except for the length on the top tube and potentially the grips and the seat. So moving to the Scout Matte Raw 21-inch edition. This one has same everything except for the grips and maybe seat. Grips are Brock Rayford grips. The previous was Jake Seeley's. The front and rear hubs are the same. Everything is exactly the same except for that difference on the frame. Let's take a look at geometric differences on the handlebars and frames. So we see the exact same geometry between the two 21-inch frames. There is a difference in handlebar geometry between the Matte Raw and the Matte Army Green. We have a half-inch difference in width and a 1 degree difference in upsweep, with the The matte army green being a 4-degree or 3-degree upsweep with 29 inches wide, and the matte raw being a 28.5 inch wide 4-degree upsweep handlebar. So those are differences there. Let's take a look between these. Looks like the geometry of the frames are exactly the same, except for that top tube difference between 20.75 and 21. And the handlebar geometry is the same between the matte raw with the 4-degree upsweep and 28.5 width and the gloss black 20.75 scout. Now let's take a look at this matte trans purple in 20.75. Everything, I'm assuming, yes, everything is exactly the same here, except for this one has a 20.75 top tube with all the exact same frame geometry and the same 28.5 width and 4-degree upsweep handlebars as the gloss black and the matte raw. So those are your scout options, and they all come in at the same price of $500. Actually, I'm lying. Why is the army green $540 versus $570 on these others? And we're actually seeing that $30 difference between the gloss black, the matte army green being $540, and the matte raw with the matte trans purple being $570. And I can't quite see why that difference exists, other than maybe the differences in the handlebars, because some of those have different handlebars. I'm not totally positive here. If I'm missing something, let me know in the comments down below. But there's a $30 difference there, and there's both 21 inch and 20.7 inch options with the $540 models. So if you want to spend $30 less and you don't care about whatever that difference might be, this could be the option that you take a look at. I just can't see a difference here. So moving on from the Scout, what do we have next? The primer. There are 5 different primers. Then there's the blueprint. Then there's the starter bikes. There's a lot of bikes in Sunday's lineup. So the primer has options with 20-inch head top tubes, 21-inch top tubes, 20.5, 20.75. Yeah, there's quite a bit of options here. And at this point, this video is going to be very, very long, but it's because there's so many options. And if you're looking to buy a bike, I hope this is informative for you. So let's take a look at the first primer on their list with a 20-inch even top tube. This could be something that you should look into if you need a 20-inch even top tube, and because none of the other bikes in their lineup have a 20-inch flat top tube. So this one's going to be a serious starter bike at a seriously great price. So these all come in. That one's $490, $490, $490, $490, and $509 or $510, but there's a reason for that because it's a primer park. So gloss billiard green. Let's take a look at the options. Primer 20-inch top tube, primer 20-inch fork, 2-piece handlebars, freeze front load. This one actually is a front load in the picture. FSA headset and cap, Springfield brakes, brake lever, quick slick cable, Cornerstone Sunday grips, Sunday badge seat post is integrated, seat clamp is Sunday, sprocket, Sabertooth V2 25 tooth, steel sprocket this time. I do not recall seeing steel previously, but I might have missed it. 160 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks, so you are getting 3-piece chromoly cranks here. Sealed mid bottom bracket, 19 millimeter. The pedals are Wellgo platform plastic pedals with that P7X aluminum rims on there. I'm assuming those are single wall. Front hub, loose ball. Rear hub is sealed. So that front hub is going to be the one that you have to tighten and has that finicky adjustment on it that I talked about. That is something that can make your wheel loose because it's very hard to get it just right and then tighten your wheel down, have it spin perfectly and not be loose. It's a very finicky thing, but this is what comes with these more budget bikes. Same tires, the KMC S1 chain. So there's quite a lot of differences here. The weight on this one is 25.8 pounds. So it comes in a little bit lighter than the previous bikes. And we'll take a look at the geometry differences just like we have on all the others. So this bike is $490. Here we have the matte black 2022 primer that is 21 inches on the top tube. That is a full inch difference, and let's take a look if there's any other differences here. So it's got all of the same. Let's see if the cranks are the same. The cranks are 170 millimeters on this 21-inch bike, so 160 millimeters on the 20-inch flat bike, which is a good thing because this is made for a smaller person or someone who likes that shorter wheelbase and shorter top tube length. Any other differences here? No, none that I can see. Now let's take a look at the actual geometry of the frames. So aside from the top tube length, the geometry of the frames are exactly the same. The handlebar geometry is also exactly the same. So let's move on to the Fire Engine Red 20.75-inch primer. What differences do we see here besides the top tube length? Looks like everything is exactly the same once again, which would just make sense. Let's take a look. Handlebar geometry. Everything is exactly the same. So there you go. Top tube length is the only difference on these bikes aside from color, clearly. And maybe grip, those superficial, like surface level grip and seat differences that you see. Matte sky blue, this is 20.5 inches. So if you need that 20.5 inches, and I also actually have a video on how to know what top tube length or what size bike you need to buy, which you can check out if you need to know that before you actually, make your decisions on complete bikes. So let's see here. I'm assuming this is all going to be exactly the same, but just for the sake of looking, these have 160 millimeter cranks on it. So there is a difference there if you need those shorter cranks, but that makes sense being a half inch shorter than that 21 and a quarter inch shorter than the 20.75, which had the 170 millimeter. So let's take a look. Frame geometry is everything is exactly the same once again. So you don't have to think about frame geometry other than top tube length or anything else other than top tube length and maybe grips and seat differences in all of these, as well as the difference in color of the bike. So now we've got the primer park. This is where a difference is going to be found because this bike has a gyro and different brake components on it. So it has a 20.5 inch top tube frame, and let's see what else the differences are. So it's got the M2 trigger lever on it, the same as before on the Maca Perez signature bike. Same brake cables, exact same brake setup as that bike. So that's interesting. If you're looking for a budget bike for someone who's younger, smaller, isn't going to be doing, higher level things with it, a very light person, this could be an option worth taking a look into. Any other differences? It's got the 160 millimeter cranks on it. Makes sense being a shorter top tube just like the others. And the weight difference is non-existent. It's the exact same weight. Now let's take a look at the frame geometry because this one is different. So pay attention. This one is different. It has the same 20.5 inch top tube length as the previous bike we talked about, but the head tube angle is steeper at 75.5 degrees versus 75 flat. Seat tube angle is 71. This chainstay length is also shorter at 12.7 to 13 inches versus 13.2 to 13.5 inches on all of the other primers. The bottom bracket height is also higher at 11.625 inches versus 11.5 inches on all of the other primers. And the standover is 7.5 inches versus 8.75 inches on all the other primers. Handlebar differences are non-existent because the handlebars are exactly the same. So that is where the differences lie. Top tube length and crank length for the others, and then top tube length, crank length, and brake setup on these for this primer park. So the primer bike for 400 or from 490, I think it was. Yeah, 490 to 510. That is what you're getting for your money. And I already said how I feel about this stuff, so let's continue on here and talk about the blueprint. The blueprint, there's 4 different models here from 20 inches flat to 20. Yeah, there's 2 different size options for 20 inches flat and 20.5 inches. as well as color options here. So let's just open them all up and do the same thing once again. So here we've got the gloss black 20.5 top tube, and let's see, the blueprint frame, blueprint fork, two-piece handlebars, same stem, headset, cap. It has a different brake lever, the aluminum U-brake compatible brake lever, but the same brakes and brake cable, cornerstone Sunday grips, badge Sunday seat, integrated seat post, so it's built into the seat. It's a combo, so every time I've said integrated up till now, it was the same. Seat post clamp is integrated into the frame. Sprocket, Sunday S logo 25-2 steel. So this is where we're first seeing a different sprocket too. And of course, we're coming down to the $449 price point, so costs have to be cut from somewhere. 160 millimeter three-piece chromoly cranks. I'm glad to see the chromoly cranks have made it this far, but this is where we see a big difference in the frame. This has a loose ball American 19 millimeter bottom bracket. That means it is not a sealed bottom bracket. That mid bottom bracket that you're used to seeing on BMX frames, this does not have it, whereas every single other bike before this one had that mid bottom bracket. Same P7X aluminum rims. These are 36 hole. I wonder where that 20 hole rim thing came from, because I didn't notice up till just now. But these have, I'm assuming, both front and rear hub are both loose ball. 14 gauge steel black spokes, Sunday current tires, 2.4 front and rear, the KMC S1 chain, 26 pounds with brakes. So let's go through all the rest of these before I talk about my thoughts on the price versus what you're getting versus the previous or higher model above this. So this is the gloss black with 20-inch top tube. Looks like it's got pink tires on it. This one is actually $10 more expensive? Correct. So let's see what we've got here. Same frame, but with a 20-inch top tube, same fork, same bars, stem, headset, cap, brake levers, the same, brakes are the same, cornerstone grips, all of it is the same. Up to, we see the same cranks, same bottom bracket, same pedals. So everything is exactly the same except for the top tube, and apparently this frame costs $10 more than the previous frame, being longer. All of the exact same frame geometry and handlebar geometry between these. I'm assuming this is going to be the same story. $450 price point versus the $460 that we just talked about. This is 20.5-inch top tube like the first bike that we talked about in the blueprint lineup. Everything is exactly the same. Frame geometry is also exactly the same. Handlebar geometry is exactly the same. So let's take a look at now and find out if this 20-inch frame is what's costing more. No, the Fire Engine Red 20-inch flat top tube is $10 less. So something about that bike made it $10 more. So everything, all of these bikes are the same except for top tube length, between 20 inches flat and 20.5. And the price is $10 different between the 20-inch flat gloss black. Apparently, maybe it's the tires being that they're pink. So with that being said, the price on the primer is $40 more. And my honest opinion, for that $40 more, I would save it and spend it to get the mid bottom bracket, if nothing else. That's my personal thoughts on it, because I think that it's worth it to have a mid bottom bracket if you ever need to change it, because that loose ball American bottom bracket and everything to do with that can be a pain, and it's easier to do yourself. So if you have to go with this within your budget, save up that extra $40 and spend it on the primer versus the blueprint. But once again, this is going to be that beginner level bike. This is the first lowest level complete bike that they offer. So this is for the beginner, not meant for somebody who's going out there and sending it. That being said, they also have 16 and 18-inch bikes. Let's take a look at the 16-inch bikes first, because there's two different options at pretty big differences in price. We've got the blueprint and the primer 16, so they're going to have different parts on them. So let's take a look first at the blueprint 16-inch. This one has a 15.5-inch top tube, 16-inch fork on there, 2-piece handlebars, front load aluminum stem, same traditional headset. So that means it's not a sealed headset, and it does have the cups that go into the frame, as you can see right here. A lot of different geometry here that I'm not used to. It's got a 1-inch steel seat post. It's got the Springfield U-brake on it with the click slick cable, the junior aluminum brake lever with the short reach because it's made for somebody smaller. Their fingers aren't long enough to reach a normal brake lever yet. U-brake compatible. Velo Junior grips, Velo Junior seat. Seat clamp is integrated in the frame. S logo, 28-tooth steel sprocket. That's interesting. Maybe it's for the 13-tooth freewheel that it comes with in the back. 115 millimeter one-piece cranks. Keep that in mind. Loose ball American bottom bracket. Welgo Junior platform pedals. P7X aluminum rims. 16-inch 20-hole. Sunday 20-hole front loose ball hub with a loose ball 20-hole rear hub that is a 13-tooth freewheel. If you don't know what a freewheel is, Google it. It is way different than a cassette that you might be used to. 14-gauge spokes, current tires in 16 by 2.1 front and rear, KMC S1 chain, and it comes in at 21.73 pounds with the brakes on it. Now let's take a look at the primer. So this is going to be a little bit better than the Blueprint 16-inch. This one also has a longer top tube. So if you're looking at a younger kid getting this bike, maybe you look at the Blueprint because it's got that 15.5-inch top tube. This one has a 16.5-inch top tube with 16-inch forks, probably the same ones. Same handlebars. This one has a top load stem versus the front load stem on the Blueprint. We've also got same headset and cap. Brake lever is an aluminum U-brake compatible brake lever. So it looks like a normal brake lever on there. The brakes are the Springfield with the quick slick cable, same grips, Sunday badge seat, so you're getting the branded seat there. Integrated seat post, seat clamp is Sunday. Sabertooth V2 25-tooth steel sprocket. So that's the same one that we saw on some of the mid-level complete bikes. We've got the 127 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks. So these are 3-piece chromoly cranks on this 16-inch bike. That is a huge difference than the 115 millimeter 1-piece cranks on the Blueprint 16-inch. This also means it's got the sealed mid 19 millimeter bottom bracket. Worth it every time over the loose ball American bottom bracket. Same pedals, same rims, same front hub. This one has a sealed rear hub with a 10-tooth driver, so it's a much better all-around rear hub. Same spokes, same tires, and the same chain. This one weighs 23.3 pounds with brakes, so it's a little bit heavier. Okay, but what do we get as far as differences in frame geometry? So the top tube length is longer. The head tube angle is steeper at 74.5 degrees versus 73.5 degrees on the Blueprint 16. C-tube angle is the same at 71 degrees, and the chainstay length is 10.6 inches to 10.85 inches on the Primer versus 11.25 inches on the Blueprint, which means it's longer. It's got a bottom bracket height of 9.25 inches on the Primer versus 9.25 on the Blueprint, and the standover is also the same at 6.9 inches. Handlebar geometry is exactly the same, so the same handlebars, and the price difference between these is actually pretty significant. $340 versus $440. And what you're getting is that sealed rear hub with a driver versus a freewheel. You're getting the top load stem. You're getting the real full-size brake lever. You're getting that different sprocket, I believe. Yeah, you're getting that different sprocket on there. You're also getting the integrated bearings on your headset. I didn't cover that part. I just glossed over it. This doesn't have the caps. It's got the bearings that just pop into your headset or into your frame. And then it's got the mid-bottom bracket as well. And these are both things I think are so much more friendly and user-friendly to work on than the previous that we talked about with the caps that go into the frame, or the cups that go into the frame in the American bottom bracket, which is not fun to have to work on if you don't know exactly what you're doing. These are more user-friendly, as I said. So I personally think that it's probably worth that $100 for the quality differences that you're getting. This is definitely a more solid bike for that $100, as it should be. And I think that is probably worth your money to upgrade to that. But once again, if you're talking about a smaller kid who might not even like actually be trying to ride BMX, then maybe this is the bike that you look at where it's like a little bit better than the Walmart quality bike that you would find, but it's not quite to the level of this primer. And you don't need the level of the primer because the kid's just riding in circles or riding around the neighborhood, which is a huge thing to consider. If you're actually looking for a child who's going to be riding BMX and trying tricks and things, this is the one you got to go with. But if not, that's why these exist, for the kids who are just riding around in circles, having fun in their neighborhood. So now let's take a look at the 18s. I'm going to assume, actually I'm not going to assume because they're both primers and they're both $460. So let's go down and take a look. 18.5 inch top tube, 18.5 inch top tube. So those are exactly the same. Primer, 18 inch forks, 2-piece bars, front load stem, front load stem. Just going to keep going back and forth here because I want to see if there's any differences other than the color. It looks like, from what I'm seeing so far, everything is exactly the same. Yeah, every part of this. It does have that loose ball front hub, but it does have the sealed rear hub, which is great to see. 28 hole on the rims and the hubs. It's got the current 2.2 tires front and rear and the same KMC S1 chain, and they both weigh 23.3 pounds with the brakes. Let's take a look at the frames. The geometry on these are exactly the same. So let's look at the bars. 25.5, 20, yep. The handlebar geometry is exactly the same too. So what you're choosing between here are the colors essentially. There's no other differences in anything geometrically and price-wise other than the colors. There you go. That's the 18 inch and it comes in at $460 and there's no other options from Sunday, but it does have the integrated bearings in the mid bottom bracket on it. So you don't have to worry about those things. And it's also got the 3-piece chromoly cranks. So you've got that to consider as well. Since this is the only option for an 18 inch from Sunday, I can't really say too much about it. And now let's move down to the Model C. So it says the Model C created the modern standard in 24-inch BMX. So what differences do we have? We have a $50 price difference here between the black and the blue. What are the differences? For that $50, let's see. We've got the 22-inch top tube, chromoly down tube and dropout, so it's not full chromoly. Fork is the 24-inch Model C fork with a chromoly steer tube, not full chromoly there. The handlebars, 24 UMPH XL OEM 2-piece bars, assuming not chromoly. Freeze top load, FSA integrated headset, Sunday cap. Brake lever is the Springfield with the Springfield U-brake and quick slick cable. Man, this video is long at this point. The Odyssey Brock Rayford grips, monogram seat, pivotal post, Sunday clamp, Sabertooth V2 25-2 steel sprocket, 175 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks, sealed mid bottom bracket, Twisted PC Pros with the Lightning 24-inch 36-hole rims. Those are single wall rims. It's got the sealed front hub, great to see, sealed rear hub that I'm assuming is a cassette, 10-tooth driver, 14-gauge steel spokes, and the Pursuit OEM 24-inch 2.2-inch tire, 24-inch 2.2-inch tires front and rear with the Z1 wide chain. Running through this very quickly here, I do not see any differences. Cranks the same. Now let's look at the frame geometry. 22-inch frame, 24.5 degree head tube angle, 71 degree seat tube angle, 14.6 to 14.85 inch chainstay, 13.75 bottom bracket height, and a 9.25 inch standover. Exactly the same. Everything is the same. 7.75 inch rise on the handlebars, 28 inches wide with a 12 degree back sweep and 4 degree up sweep. And the weight on both is 29.1 inches. And I'm not really sure why there's a difference in price other than maybe just the color. I don't see it. If you see it, it's been a long video, so I might just be missing something, but there is a $50 price difference here. Maybe you see it and you can fill us in the comments down below. But that is the Model C. It's their 24-inch bike. There's no other options other than those two, so I can't really say a difference or why to choose at this point. So if you like one color, get that one. And if you like the other color and you're willing to spend more, get that one. The High C, I think this was new last year or maybe the year before that, but this is a 29-inch bike. And there's two different options that are, once again, $50 differences. Let's take a look and see if we can find and spot the difference. It's got the High C 23.5-inch top tube, 100% chromoly frame. I love that. 100% chromoly fork. Love that. 29-inch fork, obviously. Fairdale MX6, 100% chromoly handlebars. It's got the Freeze top load, FSA headset, Sunday cap, Avid FR5 brake lever. Interesting. We have got the aluminum V-brake, so that's different. You can see the V-brake going on top of the chain stays there, the seat stay tubes there. So moving down, we've got Sunday 2P brake cable, cornerstone grips, badge seat. Seat post is a micro adjust aluminum 27.2 millimeter seat post with a clamp that is a quick release 29.8 millimeter. Sprocket, Sabertooth V2 27 tooth aluminum sprocket. 175 millimeter 3-piece chromoly cranks with a mid-bottom bracket, twisted PC pedals, DP24 aluminum double-walled rims. Love to see it. 36-hole sealed hub, 36-hole sealed rear hub with a 13-tooth freewheel. That's interesting. So the sprocket is a 27-tooth with a 13-tooth. Obviously, the bigger tires are going to affect the gear ratio and how the gearing feels. For the tire, we get a brand name Maxxis Torch tire on both the front and rear in size 29 by 2.1 inches. Chain is the KMC Z1 wide chain, and the approximate weight is 29.1 pounds. So here is the frame and handlebar geometry. Let's take a look at the $50 more gloss trans purple to raw fade. This one has the same frame, same forks, same handlebars. It's got the same stem, same everything up to the seat's different. It's a railed seat. Seat alternative is the Odyssey Aiken railed seat. That's pretty tight. Same seat post and clamp, same sprocket, same cranks, bottom bracket, pedals. Rims are the same as well. Front and rear hub are the same. Tires are the same. So let's take a look at the frame geometry. I'm assuming that, that can't be different, right? Yeah, frame geometry is exactly the same. Handlebar geometry is exactly the same. So does the paint job make it $50 more maybe? That could be it. It's a $50 more option, and I don't see any reason why other than maybe the paint job being a little bit different. So that being said, that is Sunday Bike's complete bike lineup for 2022. This is a long video. If you made it through this entire video, you are a champion. Let me know your favorite Sunday Bikes complete, even one you might not buy or be able to buy. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope this helped you. Remember, if I missed anything in here or I glanced over to anything or got anything wrong, I'm sorry. It's a long video, but I hope that this did some service for you in buying a new complete bike. And if it did, let me know which one you bought in the comments down below as well. And I hope that if you're new here or you haven't yet, it helped you enough that you'll hit the subscribe button while you're down there leaving a comment. And then we'll see you tomorrow for another video. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Sunday for making these bikes, continuing to make awesome parts and bikes, and we'll see you tomorrow for another one.